Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. Now, as astrologers, one of the key things we always get asked is, what do I do if I don't know the time of birth? Because as you'll know, if you know a lot about astrology, it's far more than just your sun sign, like when you were born, or you Pisces, Cancer, Scorpio, whatever. Your time and place of birth is a lot more specific because that hones in on your ascendant. But of course, for obvious reasons, a lot of people do not know when they were born. Their parents have forgotten or have kind of passed on, so they can't find out that information. So I want to show you a few tips on how you can work out your ascendant. Okay, some of these may not be exactly accurate, but never mind. So first thing, think about your husband, partner, your wife, or alternatively the most significant relationship you've had in your life if you're single. What sign was that person? So if that person was maybe a Scorpio, it's highly likely you have Taurus rising. So think of whatever sign they are and then do the opposite. So Aries and Libra are opposite, Taurus Scorpio, Gemini Sagittarius, Cancer Capricorn, Leo Aquarius, and Virgo Pisces. So you might be the opposite one. Then think about the star signs of your parents. Now, I find very often that people have parents who are the same triplicity. So that means your parents are both cardinal signs, which is Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. Or maybe they're fixed signs, which is Scorpio, Taurus, Leo, Aquarius. Or the mutable signs, which is Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces. So it's quite often that your parents are the same. If they are, say if your parents are both cardinal signs, and it's highly likely your rising is cardinal. If your parents are both fixed, very likely you might have a fixed rising, and so forth with mutable. So you can see, there we go, straight off the bat, lots of examples of how you can try and figure out what your rising is just by knowing your parents and your partner. But we're going to go a little bit step further. I've forgotten a key piece of equipment. Hold on. Ta-da! Okay, we're going to do like the clock method of trying to work out your ascendant. Okay, so I want you to picture that 9 o'clock here is sunrise. Just depict that. 9 represents sunrise, 3 represents sunset, 12 is midday, and 6 is midnight. So everyone's born around that. Sorry about the ticking. Everyone, it's not a bomb. Everyone's born around that sign, that thing. So very often your parents have like a rough idea of when you were born. So for example, if your mom says that she thinks you were born at sunrise, you go over to number 9. Okay. Now, if you were born at sunrise, it's very likely that your sun sign is the same as your ascendant. So if you're Cancer, for example, and you're born at sunrise, you're probably Cancer rising. If you're Sagittarius and you're born at sunrise, you're probably Sagittarius rising. At the very least, you may be the sign slightly before, slightly after. All right, so if you're an Aries, you're born at dawn, you're probably Aries rising, could be Taurus, could be Pisces. Next, if you're born at sunset, which is represented by 3, then your rising sign is probably opposite to your star sign. So if you are Taurus and you're born at 3, you could be Scorpio rising. If you're Capricorn, you're born at 3, you could be Cancer rising. Works like that. If you were born at midday, then if you're a cardinal sign, think about the very next cardinal sign. So if you're a cardinal sign that's a Libra, right? The next cardinal sign is Capricorn. So if you were Libra, born at midday, could have Capricorn rising. Likewise, if you were, let's see, Aries, born at midday, think of the next cardinal sign, you might be Cancer rising. Let's do it with mutable. So if you are a mutable sign, like, say, Virgo, and you're born at midday, what's the next mutable sign? Sagittarius. So you could be Sagittarius rising. Work it out like that. Or if you're a fixed sign, if you're Aquarius, born at midday, what's the next fixed sign? Taurus. So you could be Taurus rising. Works the same way with midnight. I'll just do one example. So say you are let's do cardinal again. You're a cardinal sign. You are, which one haven't we done? I'm trying to think of a sign we haven't done yet. Say you are Libra and you're born at midnight. Then you would count back to the previous cardinal sign, to Libra, which is Cancer, would make you Cancer rising. Sorry, I keep going that way. It's 9 I'm meant to be going to. So, and let's do one more. Say you are Scorpio and you're born at midnight. What's the previous fixed sign? Leo. So you're probably Leo rising. And you can do it for all others. So say your parents think you're born late afternoon. Late afternoon corresponds with like a 2 here. Very early hours of the morning before sunrise would be like an 8. Very late at night before midnight would be a 5. So, you can work that out. After lunchtime, sort of 1. So that's how you work out where you are. And then, whatever time of day you think you're born, say for example, we come here, you think you're born like mid-afternoon. So you put your sun at 1 and then you think, well, what sign am I? Say you are Pisces. You then count forward from Pisces. You go Pisces, Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer rising, right? So if you were Pisces and born sort of early afternoon, you would have Cancer rising. Or let's do an example. Say you think you were born after midnight, like late night, but not wee small hours yet, and you are Capricorn, and then count backwards, because you're always going anti-clockwise, right? So you're going to count backwards. So Capricorn, Sagittarius, Scorpio rising. So you can use that, if you know ballpark, what sort of time you're born, to count around the clock and to try and work out. I hope that makes sense. I don't want me to explain that again, but it's fairly logical, really. Just remember the signs always go anti-clockwise. So when you're counting from any number, you're counting, so if you're counting, say, from 3, if you're Aries, you're going Aries, Taurus, Gemini. So you move in a counterclockwise way. Okay, next let's do some questions. And these questions will help you, no matter what your star sign, to work out as well, not what your ascendant sign or what time you're born. You don't have to know anything to know this. So, how would people describe you in one word? Would it be bubbly, bossy, shy, or helpful? If it's a bubbly, highly likely you are Leo, Aries rising. Bossy is a Leo, Gemini. Sorry, bubbly, Leo, Gemini. Bossy, Aries, Libra, maybe a bit of Capricorn. Helpful, definitely Virgo. Cancer, also Capricorn. Shy is probably Pisces, Aquarius, also Cancer maybe, and Scorpio. What are your coping mechanisms? When you're in a stressful, tense situation, or a new situation, or an unfamiliar situation, how do you cope? What's your go-to thing? For some people, it's communicate. So it's get talking to a lot of people. Talk about your problems. Reach out for help. Speak about your problems on social media. Do a little bit of research. Communication is the way you deal with your anxiety. Then it's highly likely you're Gemini rising or Virgo rising, possibly Sagittarius rising. Other people cope with their sort of like anxiety feelings by being very friendly to everyone, trying to pacify, trying to calm everything down, trying to be a go-between and being really diplomatic and trying to pour oil over troubled waters. That kind of indicates a Taurus or Libra rising. It can also be a little bit of Leo and sometimes Aquarius as well. Then there's the sort of people who, when there's a very tense or threatening situation, they get angry and they really want to attack that situation and solve it and get stuck in. That's very much more an Aries thing. Also Sagittarius, possibly Capricorn, except Capricorn would do it more with method and system rather than so much attack and so much anger, whereas Aries might get really heated, get angry, get a bit dramatic, tell everybody off, that sort of thing. Some people, when faced with crisis or conflict or anxiety, likes to go into hiding, be really private, find a safe place, get really withdrawn, just sort of take themselves out of that situation. And that would indicate Pisces rising, definitely Cancer rising, or Scorpio rising. So think about how you're handling those situations and it'll give, coping mechanisms, it'll give you an idea. Now, picture your first day at a new job. What would you be like? Okay. Are you the sort of person who rolls in there, wants to make a huge impression, goes in all guns blazing, wants to be the center of attention, is going to set the world alight, really wants to start by making a wow factor? You're probably Leo rising if you want to do that. Also, Aries rising and maybe Sagittarius rising, because that is such a fiery approach to that situation. Number 2, or are you the sort of person who starts a new job and you try and make friends, work out who everyone is, be really congenial, put your best foot forward, be really pleasing, just try and get on with everybody, even the people who aren't so nice? That's a lot of Gemini rising, Taurus rising, Aquarius rising as well, and sometimes Sag can do that as well. Third, when you get in a new job, maybe you're the sort of person who's very methodical and diligent. You want to find out all the rules. You want to find out exactly how everything works. You want to be really sure not to tread on anyone's toes. You want to be really respectful. You just really want to find out the lay of the land and get like into it. That would be a Virgo rising, a Capricorn rising, and possibly a Libra rising as well. Number 4 there is you might want to join a new job and just act unobtrusive. Hope no one notices you. Just kind of fade in the background. Not do too much. Not get into trouble. Not get too involved. Just kind of observe, right? Watch the dynamics. Use the emotional intelligence. Just use your intuition and kind of suss out the scene. And that's far more of a Pisces, Cancer rising or Scorpio rising thing. Okay, now I want to talk about all the signs, the rising signs, in terms of new situations. So you just got divorced, right? Or you just had to move home, you were made redundant, you had like a huge change in your life that you maybe weren't really wanting or anticipating. How are you going to cope with this change? Well, for Aries, it's a case of excellent, happened for a good reason, it happened for the best, I just want to get started, let me just start now. I'm impatient, I just want to start, get it over with, get into it and just get moving on this new thing and get a head of steam going. Taurus, like, oh my God, I can't bear this. I don't want this change. I feel like absolute crap. I feel really insecure. This is just not for me. I'm really fed up. I'm quite resentful. I'm almost bitter about this change. Oh my God, I suppose I'll just have to grin and bear it and do it. Gemini think, this is interesting. Life was getting boring. I need to change. That means I have to start meeting new people. Oh, good. It means I've got to do some research, find out new stuff. Oh, I'm going to start getting really into this and researching. This could actually be quite interesting. Oh, suddenly I'm excited about life again. Then you have Cancer rising. And Cancer rising will think, well, I needed this change. I sense an opportunity. It's probably a good thing. But I really want to protect my family and work very hard to ensure that any ructions or any problems don't affect my family because I really want to keep things calm in the home environment. Leo tends to get really dramatic. It'll either be, wow, this is the best thing ever. I'm so excited. I just can't hide it, you know. I'm really going to attack this. This is terrific. And let's tell everyone on Facebook and Twitter about it. I want everyone to know. I'm making a big deal about it. Or Leos might be dramatic the other way and maybe cry and hide and make way too much of it. So whichever way, I think Leos make way too much of change. Leo rising, remember. Virgos are like, oh gosh, this is super interesting, but I must get organized. I've got to make lots of lists. I've got to get prepared. I've got to get everything I need. I've really got to find out as much information as possible as I make this change. Libra are thinking, I love challenges, I need a change, I'm really up for this, but I am very worried that it will affect my relationship. So I need to work harder at my relationship. I'm really nervous how it will affect that. Scorpio are two extremes. They're either thinking, oh my God, I'm going to resist this change with everything I've got. If it kills me, I'm not doing this. Or, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to burn bridges, cut ties with the past. I'm just going to make a clean break and go for it. What the hell? Then Sagittarius is like, oh, this is part of my journey. Sagittarius rising, of course. It's part of my journey. This is a new adventure. I've got the adventure spirit. I'm excited about life again. I'm all ready to go, and I'm really philosophical about it. Capricorn rising is like, I'm not so sure about this. I need to take out an insurance policy. I need to go about this really cautiously. I need to get everything organized. I've got to work extra hard to get on top of this, but I am going to make a success of it, and it's going to be good. Aquarius rising is like, okay, whatever will be, anything goes. I'm up with it. What the hell? I mean, let's just do this, guys. What's the big deal? And Pisces is like, change? What, something is going on that I need to know about? Anything happening? Because for Pisces rising, changes often happen like you don't even notice. You just slide or merge with new circumstances, or you just sort of drift into new circumstances. Big changes in your life tend not to be so dramatic when you have Pisces rising. So the final thing is childhood and health. Aries rising often suffer sinus problems, headaches, maybe migraines, injuries to the head. You know, it's this whole theme of going head first into everything, right? So that might be some of your issues around the head with health. In childhood, you were often quite spoiled. Your parents let you get your own way. You had a lot of independence. You were kind of an adventurous, sports-loving child, quite a competitive person, and always wanted to be first, and therefore were quite an early achiever in life. That's Aries rising, early achiever, because you go into life with a lot of confidence, right? So you will achieve. If you're a Taurus rising, you might have a lot of problems with your tonsils out, tonsillitis, thyroid issues, and sometimes overeating. Sometimes Taurus rising eat to feed emotions and to feed problems. It could be a little bit chubby and overweight because of a food thing. Taurus rising generally have quite a settled, calm, even boring childhood. Sometimes it's too predictable and conservative. Often there is a fair amount of prosperity and wealth, so it's quite a comfortable upbringing, but that can make you a little bit lazy and complacent later in life. Also, Taurus rising, very slow starters, so probably not at your best at school. You get better as you go on, so you probably, when you get to your 40s, you really like achieving, but you probably didn't achieve at school or uni. Maybe you weren't mature yet. Okay, Gemini rising is problems with the chest, lungs, lots of lung infections, pneumonia and things, not that serious, maybe asthma, but chest things, and sometimes hard to diagnose problems. Also, Gemini rising can have issues, they like smoking because of the nerves, quite a lot of anxiety can be a problem with Gemini rising, so they need lots of the B vitamins and all that. Gemini rising generally have an interesting childhood, lots of interactions with either siblings, uncles, aunts, godparents, lots of coming and going in the home, maybe lots of swapping between different schools and different areas, or parents moving houses, emphasis on education, emphasis on thinking for yourself and living by your wits. Your parents didn't baby you. If you Cancer rising, probably got a lot of attention from your parents. They probably did nurture you and baby you, and maybe were a little bit suffocating and over the top and far too overprotective. But you were encouraged to be independent, although with Cancer rising, often there were changes that made you very insecure in your early life. So maybe before you were 12, there was a lot of moving or uncertainty in the family environment, and that made you feel quite insecure. Problems at Cancer rising, always digestion. So poor digestion, irritable bowel, heartburn, reflux, all that. Leo rising comes into the world with a bang. So your birth probably got a lot of attention. You were either the first child, the first grandchild, or maybe you were like what we call in South Africa a laat lammetjie. So your birth got a lot of attention. Your parents have loads of pictures when you were born, and you felt like a celebrity as soon as you came into this world, and therefore you have a lot of confidence, vavavoom, enjoy being the center of attention, and tend to be a confident, outgoing child that's quite resilient, robust, has quite good health because you tend to be very positive. So even if you have health issues, you tend to grow out of them. I think the heart can be a problem, but that's generally in later life for Leo rising. Generally like outgoing, sunny, happy persona, and gets on really well in most situations, quite like a robust character, although maybe a bit pushy and a bit of a show-off. I'm Leo rising, so don't take offense to that. So then Virgo rising, quite uptight, suffers from nerves as well, also might have the chest issues like Gemini rising because of the Mercury rulership. Generally grows up in an interesting environment with a big emphasis on education. Parents might be quite strict and quite pushy, but you know your boundaries. You're brought up with a fair amount of grounding and confidence, maybe brought up a lot around siblings and pets, so you're used to looking after small things and having to look out for younger ones, and you probably quite enjoyed schooling because you're a curious person. Libra, health problems, the kidneys, sometimes diabetes, can be an overeating thing as well. Sorry, with Cancer rising, also sometimes overeating. Libra rising usually has quite a balanced, calm environment growing up. Sometimes can be a little bit spoilt as well. Sometimes the parents don't exercise enough discipline, which can lead to poor habits like too much eating or too much pleasure seeking later in life. But generally the early environment is quite conducive to your emotional development, and maybe there's a lot of sharing going on. So you had to share a bedroom with older siblings. You came from a kind of a big family. There was always you learned to share early on, in whichever context it was, either because you were in a big family or because money was tight, etc. Scorpio rising usually comes into the world during a crisis. So were you born when your parents were getting divorced, or were you a surprise baby, or was there a war going on in your country when you were born, or like when you were born had someone recently died, or there was something kind of traumatic going on at the time of your birth, or maybe your birth itself was extremely unusual and chaotic or turbulent or difficult. So something around the birth and the early childhood contains themes of chaos, change, upheaval, grief, and sometimes loss. So that can be the Scorpio rising. Issues with Scorpio rising are often urinary tract infections, too personal constipation things, and Scorpio rising also, like, it's everything to do with the kidneys and flushing things out. That's why detoxing mega important for Scorpio rising, because you tend to hold everything in. So and that's like symbolic of the constipation, so you need to do a lot of cleansing out. And so you have quite a dramatic personality simply because you had such an early experience with either, it can also be sex, taboo subjects, quite deep, dark emotions, maybe a lot of conflict in the home. So you kind of come into life being quite skeptical, cynical, wary, watching out for things. Then we have Sagittarius rising. Problems with Sagittarius are often hips and lower back. And this is a fantastic rising. Maybe, you were born and your parents were in a foreign country when they had you, or your birth probably came as quite a surprise. Maybe there was also a lot of moving around in your childhood. You were certainly encouraged to be independent, adventurous, to grab life by the scruff of the neck. Maybe you had parents who took you camping and all over so you had an early experience of kind of lots of different environments and lots of different cultures. And, maybe it was a lot of coming and going in your home. Often parents who were very religious or maybe very interested in culture. So you had these kind of interesting experiences, quite eclectic experiences when you were young. Capricorn rising, problems, bones and teeth. Often when you're young, you feel like you have a lot of responsibility. So often Capricorn risings are the oldest child. Your parents might be very, very strict. Maybe they really force your education and they're always on your back about how much time you're spending studying, and they're very restrictive, and you're not allowed to go to parties, and there's this kind of restrictive thing. Or it might be your parents are very poor, so they're not so much strict, but they're poor. So you grow up with a lot of austerity, so you grow up knowing a lot of self-control, a lot of self-discipline, but being incredibly ambitious and learning to think about others before yourself. Aquarius rising, you guys are quite bohemian, so you might have had parents that were quite kooky, quite way out. You had a very unusual lifestyle, no routine, everything was up in the air. Maybe your parents dragged you around after school. I remember a girl at school, I don't know if her parents were in the theatre, she ended up going in the theatre, but she didn't, when she went home, like her parents picked up from school and they dragged her around all sorts of places until 10 o'clock at night. I don't even know what they were doing, but this is typical of like Aquarius rising. Problems with Aquarius rising are the knees and the shins. So there's a lot of children I knew with Aquarius rising had like shin splints, and that problem where your knees grow too slowly for your body and you can't do a lot of sport and stuff, so it can be problems with those joints. And like I say, you grow up very open-minded being Aquarius rising, because it's similar to Sag in a way rising. You're just bombarded with all these different influences and also with quite a lot of disruption. So maybe your life felt quite unsettled, too chaotic possibly. Maybe you thought your parents were like unreliable and this whole life you were coming into was just a chaotic mess. Then you have Pisces rising. If you're Pisces rising, you could have had problems with feet. That's common with Pisces rising. And Pisces rising are brought up in, there's a lot of confusion in your early life, and often there can be identity issues, like you're not really sure where you fit in. As a child, you feel different. Maybe you don't fit in with your parents, or you don't fit in at your school. You just feel a little bit isolated, but it encourages you to explore via your imagination and your creativity other ways of dealing with issues. So usually Pisces rising children are up in their imagination, having imaginary friends, playing games by themselves in their room, getting kind of lost in their own world. They can be a little bit dreamy as a way of coping with childhood trauma, just like being very disconnected, going by themselves, obsessing with dolls or with toys, just trying to get lost in things to avoid some of the ambiguity and confusion they're experiencing in their life or from their parents, or maybe their parents aren't very grounded and they're kind of just drifting and you feel insecure, so you have to create your own reality. So now I've described all those themes. I hope you guys will be able to pinpoint what rising sign you are, even though if you don't know. And I've enjoyed chatting to you. Please remember, would really be grateful if any of you guys check out my books on Amazon or sign up on my Patreon. If you become a patron, I'll send you loads of free books and free things and free materials as well. So if you do want to sign up on Patreon, just use the lowest. Don't worry about the different things. Just take the cheapest one. And I'll try and get in contact with you and send you some things. By the way, please subscribe. Check you're still subscribed, because I'm always losing subscribers. I think it's because of some of my more edgy content. Give me a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. I love your feedback, love your comments, and I think it's really important with all the crazy stuff going on now in the world that we stay in touch, be positive, and talk about some fun stuff as well. So hopefully this was a fun vlog. Take care.